Welcome back to the Road Forward podcast brought to you by TruckSpy. My name is Alex, and today we have Aaron. Aaron runs the company Moneypenny Trucking, and he has a YouTube channel called The Trucking Guy. And today he discusses some of the challenges of being a motor carrier and growing from 30 to 60 trucks. Hope you enjoy. You certainly have one of those unique stories where you are seeing a lot of growth. So talk to me. Right now you have how many trucks?
60. Or right at 60. We'll probably be at the end of the week. We'll have another few, and then I think I have one or two guys leaving. So it kind of always fluctuates when you get to that level.
Right, but you're hovering around 60 trucks.
Right around 60, yeah.
Okay, and what kind of trucks and trailers are those?
So we actually just got into the RGN space, which is kind of crazy. We have 6 of those, but we actually primarily have hotshot trucks. So about 60% of our trucks are hotshots, mostly CDL hotshots, all 40-foot trailers. The rest of them are conventional semis, Freightliners, KWs. We have a couple of internationals. Mostly all owner-operators. I have a few lease trucks, and I own a couple trucks, but the majority, 99% of our trucks are owner-operators. And we've been owner-operator based. We own a bunch of trailers that we lease back to the owner-operators, but primarily it's all owner-operator based and stuff.
And those semis are pulling dry vans, flatbeds? What are they
No,
pulling?
we don't. We only do flatbeds, and I have a few 53 step decks, and then we're slowly migrating into the RGN space. We just got a few new trailers, and that we're trying to basically take the flatbeds and step decks that we have and kind of put them aside for right now because the market's so tough, and go into the RGN space, or just maybe release those trailers. But no, we stay at it. Dry van I don't like. I don't like the lumpers and the timing, and it's a ripoff, and reefer and extra insurances and all that crap, and I don't like it.
You deliver 15 minutes late, you're waiting till the next day, your food goes bad, there's a claim on your insurance. It's like, okay,
Yep.
well...
Could be 3 days.
Right.
Something like with Walmart, they'll be like 3-4 days. Like you can't get an appointment, you just screwed your whole week to make $1,000.
Right.
So.
Open deck is that's a definitely good part to be in. And so...
That's what I love.
It
takes a very certain type of individual to do open deck, though, because they have to be energetic. These guys that crawl out of these dry vans, or gals or whoever, that are not... let's just say not healthy or not excited to work. It takes a certain type of energetic individual to do flatbed.
Right, that's for sure. And so we're in September of 2022, and last year, how many trucks were you at last year?
Last year we were probably hovering, our peak was probably 30 at the best, highest point. The rest of it was probably 17 to 20, somewhere in there.
Okay, so even if we take your peak of last year at 30 trucks, you're like more than double.
Yeah.
Like you're 2xing your company, so from 30 to 60. So first question would be like, do you think you're going to be at 120 trucks next year?
No, I don't know. I'm positive. I'm optimistic about it. But I'll tell you right now, what we've noticed is that I was able to recruit and get the owner operators. I was able to recruit and go it, but I didn't grow the back office. So that's our biggest struggle right now. Is like the dispatching and not just even because I have the dispatching covered too. It's the freaking paperwork and the IFTA and the compliance and the orientations and making sure everybody you got to do your log like this the way I want you to do it. You have to take your pictures like this. Just keeping track of all of that is a friggin' nightmare, man. Tolls. I have a pile of tolls that you can fit on a pallet of just toll forms that we have to go through. And our guys have pre-passes and everything, but you got to think, there's you got to have like 9 different pre-passes. You got to have Florida, you got to have Texas, you got to have Maryland, you got to have Easy Pass, and it's nuts. So they get told by plates and they come to the company a lot of time. It's just crazy paperwork on the back end that if you don't scale that too with scaling, you can have all the trucks in the world, you can't manage them or run them.
Right, that makes sense. And so still, that's maybe we don't hit 120, we hit 100, whatever. The point remains the same. That is, you are experiencing some really awesome growth. What do you think is like one of the largest contributing factors that took you from 30 to 60?
Building a brand online, social media, YouTube. A lot of my guys come from YouTube. A lot of our owner operators, a lot of the eyeballs. I'm a big proponent in if you don't have an audience or have eyeballs looking at you, nobody's going to know who you are. And just the whole Grant Cardone, if nobody knows you, they can't flow you. They can't be a part of your team. They can't be a part of your organization because they don't know who you are. So that, building a brand and an online presence has been, and I'm good at recruiting and talking to people. I have a good personable person, so that helps, as far as recruiting people. If you do a good job by people they go off and become salespeople for you. They tell other people, hey, come work for these guys because they're taking care of me. I've been here for a while. They do a good job, that type of thing. So it's not just any one particular thing. I think it's a culmination of a few things that have really the growth, But just doing it a long time.
But the key would be definitely getting people to look at you through social media, right? Through content, and your channel is the trucking guy right there on your hat, correct?
Correct. Yep, the trucking guy.
So
right
check
there.
check out his channel if you're interested.
Appreciate
it. So on top of getting eyeballs and getting drivers and recruiting people, you also want to fulfill what you promised them, right? So it's like the execution of making sure your team is booking good loads, making sure you're staying on top of paperwork and all these other things, right? So it's not, like you said, it's not just one thing. Of course, having those eyeballs is important, but fulfilling the promise to those owner-operators is probably a good thing to do really well also, right?
You gotta work really hard, and I tell because I also have a consulting business, and I consult on people to help them grow their business and brand, and I think it's all in expectations. You have to have very clean, clear, concise expectations. So when somebody calls me, and I give this script away to my clients, and I used to have a script, I'd pull it up on my phone, and I would just go down through the script, so it was always uniform. I'm big on uniform and having processes. We've talked before about, influencing with Gary Vee and Cardone or whoever, and those guys all use processes. And it's the same every time to scale, and that's what you need to scale. So I would go to my script and I would just say this, and one of the questions that I had on my script is, why do you, if you're already doing trucking, if you're with a company or you're leased on or whatever, why do you want to switch to me? Like, what is the reasoning behind it, right? Because if I see that it's a money problem, well, I can probably fix that, because I can get you over here and I can make sure you're paid, because we take care of payroll and things like that, and we're not one of these shiesty companies that spends your money and I'll pay you later, and we don't do that type of thing, right? We're legit. So that's something I can fix. But if it's just like you hate trucking and this and this and this, and you think it's going to be better over here, and I'm like, dude, you just are out of love with trucking. You hate it. Like I'm trucking. That's what I do. So coming over here is not going to benefit you or behoove you in any way at all. So I always make sure that, like, why do you want to switch over here? Or if new people, why do you want to get into trucking? Do you understand that trucking has a lot of moving pieces, and it's not always roses, and we're not eating lobster and steak and just having fun all day long. It's not that. Some days it sucks. Some days trucking sucks. This, you being in it as long as you've been in it. It's not what it's made out to be on Instagram and TikTok and glorified with badass trucks and lowered and all that and making tons of money and just wiping your tears. No, some days it's just, I always have a funny saying, if you, life's about bobbing and weaving, and if you bob when you're supposed to weave, you get hit right in the teeth. And trucking's no different. Any industry, I think, but, good days, bad days, basically.
You're having good growth. You're attributing that some to social media, but some to your execution on the back end, which is fantastic. What would you say that you do really well? Like, what's a standout thing that Aaron, the trucking guy at his company, did fantastically well that maybe somebody could learn from?
Man, I don't know. I really don't even. I would say probably just don't quit. I didn't quit, like in this, a lot, and I know that sounds kind of cliche, and a lot of people say that, it might even come from the Andrew Tates or whatever, but at the end of the day, I just didn't quit, man. I got in this, and I've almost been out of business and bankrupt 12 times at least, like crying in bed to my wife, like, well, what are we gonna do tomorrow? We're screwed, you know what I mean? We're out of everything, out of fuel money, we're like, this is gonna bankrupt us, and I just don't quit. I make a pivot, I'm like, my mom has this funny story. My mom's a bulldog, man, and she's like, you have to have some self-preservation in life. You can't, if you're an entrepreneur, which my mom has had some business, but she's mostly been employed, but she's always been a proponent and a pep talk to me. My dad has been my biggest influence as well. He's always been an entrepreneur his whole life, pretty much. A Navy man when he came out, always had multiple business and multiple facets of industries, but he would give me so much talk. But my mom would always say, you cry right now, you're upset, you give your time, 10 hours, whatever, it's tomorrow, you get back to work. And you stop being a little wuss, And so that, I think, has been the proponent to the success that I've had. And because I have some people that come in and go out, and with people coming in and going out of anything they do or anything in the industry, there's a lot of people that pick stuff up and put it down, pick it up and put it down. And I'm willing to do the stuff that, is just the stuff I don't want to do. I get up and do it anyway. And I just don't quit. And I learn, okay, we know 10 ways not to do it. Let's go see if we can find the way to do it. And then, there's number 11 not to do it. That sucks. Let's go to 12, And I just kept going and going and going. I signed on so many people, and they would come on, and I couldn't meet their expectations, or they would come on thinking that, oh, I'm going to get them 20,000 a week or some crazy, something stupid, and I'm just like, no, that's not hot shot. It's not realistic. It's not trucking. So I think learning to manage those expectations and make them like real. And I always try to, under promise, over deliver. So if I say it's going to be this, and then they're like, holy shit, my first week I made 10 grand. It's like, okay, well, that's not a traditional week. That's a once a month thing, or, once every 2 months. Like, yeah, we did really good this week, but don't, put my pedestal right there that I have to hit that benchmark every week, because I can't do it. So being realistic with people, I think just not quitting, man, because so many people that since I've been in this now 7 years, and you've been in it, as longer, if probably longer, you've seen them come and go. A lot of, either in the YouTube world or trucking companies, and it's just, I think it's just not quitting, man. I think if I were to say one specific thing, because I feel like I'm pretty good at a lot of different aspects. I'm not great at everything, but I'm good at a lot, like just a lot of little stuff, I'm average at it. So
you could sum that up into quitters never win, winners never quit.
Right.
So,
Exactly. And that's what it is.
So a level of grit that excels even during the toughest times, maybe something along those lines. That's good. And so do you actually enjoy the trucking business? Do you actually enjoy hauling freight?
Some days, here's the thing. We were talking about this before too, me and you, and you're like, man, get into something you love. And I know, and if anybody that follows Gary Vee is going to say that, because Gary Vee's all like, you do life's short and passion and you got to love it, or just be happy and be nice to people and all that. And I agree with that to an extent. I'm not like someone who just goes all in on somebody's content. I use a few different influences. But I think it's like, get into something that you can like. You don't have to love it. You just have to be good at it. I never saw myself in trucking, man. I wanted to be, I'm covered in tattoos. I've got Harley Davidson, Lamborghinis, hot rods and stuff. My dream was to basically be, I don't know if you know who he is, but Jesse James from West Coast Choppers. That's who I wanted to be. I wanted to ride bikes, build bikes, have a custom shop, and I love cars. That's my passion, right? And I couldn't figure out a way to get into that and make money, like he did, or whatever, or open a shop or whatever. And so trucking came along, or construction came along, and then trucking came along, and here I am. But I as far as like cool old Peterbilt, 389s stuff, lowered out, tricked out, the truck shows, I like that. I drove over the road for 3.5 years. I love being on the road. I absolutely love being on the road. I couldn't be away from my family anymore. I got to a point where I would cry for an hour, missing my kids when I would leave, until I finally had to drive up. Like, I got to go to work. I got to pay the bills, But that's why I came off the road and even build a company, because I had no interest in building a big 100 truck company or whatever. I had no interest. I was like, I'm just going to drive my truck and do my thing. And then the family, being away from the family, got so hard, I just couldn't do it anymore. I tried. I would push myself out the door and just crying. And I was like, man, I came home one time. I was away from my son for 5 weeks on the road, and he was a little boy. He was only like 6 months. And I came back and I went to grab him, and he was like, who the hell is this guy? And that like broke my heart, So I was like, dude, I got to figure something out, And so I was like, dude, I have to. My wife was like, well, you got to get trucks. You got to buy trucks. So I started buying trucks. That was a horrible idea, because they just break down, and I had all 4 of them: motor problems, transmission problems, lost my drivers. And then I'd get them fixed. Got to get a new driver. It sucked. So trial and error and not quitting.
Right. No, I agree with you there. Like, when I was on the road, my wife and I only had one kid, and then, slowly the family started to grow. And it's like, once your family starts to grow, you're like, hold on, what are we thinking about here? Like, this isn't, like, it's okay to be on the road with when you're leaving one kid, but it's like, 2, 3 kids. It's like, hey man, it takes teamwork to make that family sustainable. So, that's
doing something as far as loving trucking. I know that's the question that you asked me before we get off to the next topic. Is I don't necessarily love it. I think it's a really cool industry. It's a great way to make a living. I think that if you're homeless tomorrow, you can go work for a company. They'll pay to get your CDL, pay for your food, pay for your room and board to get you there and everything. And I think there's not many other industries. Maybe the medical field is probably the only other thing you can do that, where they'll put you in school, maybe, pay to be. You got to go to school first, though. You don't have to do that in trucking. But if you're like a nurse or a doctor, they'll pay for you to come there, pay for your move. Military does it, I guess, too. But there's not many things in the world that you can have that type of security or job. I got a CDL 2 or 3 years while I was in construction, just as a backup if my construction company went to crap, and I never intended to use it. Truck driving looks like a shitty job. I wouldn't want to do it, and everybody's fat, and it's not a good idea. So it just kind of happened. But there's days I have loved it though. I've got to do some really cool stuff. I got to go out to deliver to the Diesel Brothers off Discovery. That was cool. I got to deliver to a powder coating machine or furnace to Kelderman Air Ride Suspension and tour their whole plant with the owner. That was really cool for like they do the air ride on hot shot trucks and stuff, or I've got to fly a plane because of some of this stuff. A guy had a plane. I've got to do some really cool, just random. I got to see the country. I love that. But after you get into the lifestyle, and you're on the road and you're in this vortex of constantly moving forward. I was watching Joe Rogan the other day, random thing, that the scientist said getting up in the morning and moving forward momentum is one of the most, like the best things you can do for your brain, right? And it creates positive endorphins and all this and that. And I was like, that's why when I came home off the road, I'd always be like, I gotta go to the store. I gotta do this. I gotta be going. Because you're so used to going, like relaxing and chilling. It's kind of hard. But, there's things I love about it, and like right now we're all set up. We're starting to do some stuff going into Canada and RGN and heavy haul, like things that are challenging. I love a challenge. But as far as the industry in general, just a baseline, like if you were to say just trucking or hot shot or driving, no, I don't love it. I don't even like it. I think there's cool parts and the rest of it sucks. I love riding motorcycles. Right, yeah. I love fishing, but
But those don't pay, unfortunately, right?
Right, they don't pay the bills.
So, speaking of challenges, what do you think what challenges your company currently experiencing? Like, what's the big challenge? Like, man, I need to figure out a way to address this because this just keeps nagging me, or like this keeps bothering me. I need to figure out a way to address this.
Man, when you get to this level, it's just like freaking record keeping, man. My wife's a saint, and we just can't keep up. I mean, last night, one of my best guys, we forgot to pay him. I'm not even going to be, and he'll be watching this, actually. I'm about to go pick him up. He came in to drop a trailer off. I'm going to go pick him up and get a beer and some dinner. But we got forgot about, dude. And I, like 10 o'clock at night, I'm like, dude, he's one of our best guys. We can't do that. So I'm like, get on there. And she's like, it just happened. There's so many of them now, and she's just one person. I'm just one person. And we have another operations manager and dispatchers. And it's like sometimes people just fall through oh, shit, we didn't get them a load. And they've been wanting a load all day, and they're sitting at home ready. And, it's just like stuff like that. Or, oh, we forgot to file. Like I had a guy. It's the most annoying thing ever. You didn't have to experience it with Hot Shot, but with semis, Kentucky numbers. To deal with Kentucky, they will actually, if you don't file that stupid IFTA BS that they have, every month they will pull your trucks in as they go by, impound them, can't leave until it's paid. The whole account is paid, and they charge you a $500 ticket right then on the spot. So I had a guy about a month ago, and it's like my wife forgets about it every freaking month, man. It's like it's just like, oh man, it's the 31st, and then the next day they put a flag out, pull all the trucks in that go through Kentucky, and they'll even pull in hot shots that aren't even required to have it, and be like, you have to pay this bill and file it and pay the fine and do all this before we can turn your guy sitting in a weigh station, can't leave. You know what I mean? And it's just stupid stuff like that when you get to this level, guys, that you don't think about. It's like, oh, we're going to go pick up this load and make money and get a customer. No. You get bogged down in the just record keeping, the paper pushing, the stupid IFTA crap and taxes. And I know that's why you stayed out of it. We've talked many times,
Right.
Out of the semi realm,
I definitely focused more on non-CDL specifically for to avoid all those headaches. Now, like, what do you think? Like, I'm unsure, but what would be the solution for that? Put more people in place? Is that something technology can solve?
We have some technology. I mean, we use and we were just talking about this too, about, we're switching from pre-pass to DriveWise because pre-pass is an actual mechanical piece you have to put in the truck. DriveWise is an app, so when a new guy comes on, or an owner-operator, it's like sending out equipment and then when the guys quit or something happens, they don't want to give it back, and that stuff costs money. So I'm like, if we just have an app, we just cancel it and change the next guy. So it's like little things like that we're constantly just every day. We come in, we write it on the board right there, and we're like, what can we do better? What problems are we having? Problems, and we draw a line, and we have a problems box, and we have a solutions box, and me and my wife use that together. And because I always say business is problems and solutions. Emotion doesn't belong. I come in, I have a problem. What's my solution? Go straight to it, and just stop wasting time about being mad or upset or whose fault it was. None of that fixes anything, And so But yeah, we use as much technology as I can afford right now, and you would think it'd be as easy as like, let's just get more people, but you can't afford them. You know, when you're okay at the size that we're at, if we do the math, we're going to probably do between 8 and 10 million this year, right? And you think, okay, you know, you're doing, you know, 10 million, you must be making $1 million. Well, no, because the margins in trucking are so small. Like they're not even some of the national averages in other industries are 30%. We're only working on like a 9% margin. By the time I pay, you know, dispatchers and this and that, like I might make, okay, say on 10 million, I hypothetically, let's just round it to 10%, which I'm not getting, but say it's $1 million, right? I'm in a different tax bracket if I claim that. You guys don't realize that. So if I'm having to pay a stupid amount of taxes to keep 500 grand, I'm paying 500 grand. You know what I mean? So it's like I could write some of that stuff off and it's easy to just hire somebody. But, you know, a good salary for operations managers, 60 grand a year to deal with this job, you know? So how many more people can you hire? And I did a video on this too. It's like at 10 trucks, you need, you know, one dispatcher. But if that dispatcher calls off, who's the backup? Who's the fill-in? Who's the paper pusher? Who's the administrator? You go to 20, same problem you had. You got to 30 trucks. You was trying to do it with you and your wife. And that part of it is really freaking hard, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah, you could hire more people, but you can't afford them. So you have it's like a balancing act, man. It's like hire people, and then maybe you have 15 guys quit because of the crappy market. And now you've, you know, made promises to this person, and like, oh, I gotta lay you off. I don't have the money to pay you. That's one thing I hate about the trucking model too. Is everybody thinks you make a ton of money, but like, and I did a video on this too. I don't mean to rant, but if you have 60 trucks, you really only have about 30 or 40 on the road at any given time because guys get to take off when they want, go home. So you don't really run 60 every week, every day. And nobody works 52 weeks a year anyway. They only work about 40, you know, about 1 week off a month, which is 12. So you take 40, you have 52. It all adds up. The numbers have to even out. And that's about how many people, you know, as owner-operators or drivers, you probably did the same thing. You were working about 40, 42 weeks a year. I was too, because you want to be home, family, and yada, yada. So that means that you're not running, you know, at full capacity all the time. So it has huge ups and huge downs, and huge ups and huge downs. There's times I look and I'm like, you thinking we're a $10 million company? I only made $3,000 this week. And my lifestyle, it changes too, you know? So I have to like learn to live on like, you know, $1,500 a week because I can go from 5 to 10 grand a week we made in profit and then have a breakdown in 5 trailers that need a bunch of repairs. You know, so it's not what everybody thinks like owning a $10 million company would be. It's like this, and it's at any given time could be over.
Well, hopefully not, right? The chance that exists, right? Because it's like at some point in time, it's like maybe if you hire on 3 additional people thinking that the influx is coming and then it's a drop, it's like, well, darn, now you have to lay off. You don't lay off just those 3 people you hired. You lay off even more additional people just because there is so much uncertainty. Now, like...
Yeah, something you were saying, too, about cutting costs before. You were like cutting costs, getting really good at that. When you get this big, it would blow your mind, Alex, how much money you lose by not keeping track of it, dude. Like, I'll give you an example on subscriptions and stuff. There's like one guy, we have an investor that has a couple trailers. Right. And we rent those trailers out, right? So the guy's car didn't get billed for the trailer to us, but she had it up on automatic pay, so we paid the investor. So the investor got paid, but we didn't get paid. And it went on for like 2 months, and we're like, what the hell? Like, she's like doing an audit, and we're like, we're short 4 or 5 grand on a couple of these trailers, but we paid it out. And so we got to go get it from these guys, and it's like I got scared because a couple of them didn't answer. I was like, holy shit, we got to repo these trailers, like they're gone, you know. But luckily it all worked out. But it's like little stuff like that, you know.
Right, you really, really need to be on those books, making sure you're doing your due diligence there.
You got to be on top of it.
Yeah, that could be a frustrating experience. Just like not a frustrating. That can put you out of business type of experience, you know. So it's like, yeah, for sure. Wow, dude. So. We talked about where you're at, where you were. We talked about like, you know, what you're doing well and areas on where you could improve. And now I want to kind of just change it to like the trucking industry. Okay, I know you mentioned the KYU, I believe, is the Kentucky permit, right? That can be a frustrating thing, you know, just to deal with one individual state for your entire fleet. Like, what else do you think is like frustrating about the trucking industry, or you know, maybe something the federal government could look into, that they need to look into on like what they can fix and how to improve it, make it more seamless for carriers?
Man, wow! I think there's so many things. I mean, The fact that Oregon, New Mexico, New York, and Kentucky do not subscribe to IFTA is the dumbest effing thing in the world, and they should force that into fruition, and you shouldn't have to pay them separately. Because here's the thing, and like we were talking about this before, over regulatory stuff or too much regulation infringes on the free market, right? And the ability to compete. And then you have people lobbying, these big conglomerates are all up there. You know, even when Trump was in or whoever was in, they're all like, oh, we're open trucking, you know, we brought all the big dogs and these new Cascadias, and you know, they look at trucking and think Walmart trucks. They don't think about Hot Shots and the rest of us and yada yada. I think that DOT is way too stringent, especially with Hot Shot. Like I actually was having an argument about this with a couple people online, and they're like, "Oh, well, you know, you have a 20% safety score, which it's going down because we have data queues and stuff." But I'm like, "Yeah, but here's the problem. I just was at a conference. A guy had 350 trucks, and the DOT officer was teaching the class said, 'Can I use yours and his as an example?' I said, 'Yeah, sure, no problem.'" And he had 350 trucks, and he had like 50 inspections, all semi trucks though. He looked at mine, I've got like 60 trucks or whatever, and he's like, "Dude, you got like 120 or 30 inspections. Why do you have so many?" Hot Shots. That's why. I said, because they're constantly getting screwed with. And we have to deal with things that aren't fair, things that just are ridiculous. And the DOT officers don't care about your safety score. They don't care about you as a company. They don't care about your small business. They're out to have a quota, write citations. I know this because I know DOT officers. I have friends that consult on my business that are DOT officers. They have quotas. They have problems, things they have to meet. And it's just picking on us for no reason all the time. I understand tire things and this and that, but like giving us a ticket because we don't have an IFTA sticker, you know, the KYU thing, like I was telling you like just a minute ago, it'll impound your truck. And why would you impound a Hot Shot truck because the account's not, stable by $300 or whatever? The Hot Shot's not even, he's exempt from that. He's not at 50,000 pounds.
Right, because,
you know?
Right, KYU only starts at 50,000 pounds or more, right? Just in case people don't know.
So it's like little stuff like that.
Hot Shots are usually rated at 39,000, 40,000. That's usually what Hot Shots are rated, right? That would be frustrating. So they're borderline ready to tow a Hot Shot because the
and he didn't do anything wrong, right? The ELD hours of service are stupid. I mean, not the whole thing in conjunction, because I can deal with that. I can get my work done in a certain amount of time. But like, oh, you can't sleep in the back of your Hot Shot and use sleeper berth rule because you don't have a regulated sleeper berth that has to be 7 foot by 26 with fireproof. Man, it's stupid. Like, well, I can sleep in my truck. I'm fine. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm comfortable. And maybe I'm a midget. Maybe some other guy's 7 foot tall. What do you care? Right. You know what I mean? Oh, I want to see your hotel receipts. Like, it's just, you know, if you're going to claim hotel or whatever, you know, and everybody sleeps in the back of their truck. And other things. It should be illegal to go into a truck stop and harass guys while they're off duty or sleeping or whatever. And DOT officers do it all the time. I'm not a fan of DOT officers. We can sit here and have a whole combo on that. But, just stupid stuff like that. Like, I mean, brokerages are, I'm not for regulating brokerages or anything like that. I think there's a time and place for a broker. I think education is one of the biggest problems in the industry because people think you get in, get a load board, go to a broker, you're going to get good freight and you're going to be successful. No, you have to have customers. In fact, insurance companies hate that concept. They don't want you to be load board carriers at all when you get bigger. They don't want you to have Hot Shots. They don't want you to have load board freight. They don't want any of that. So they basically want you to have a customer or a big customer or a couple customers and be direct. And they want semis. They prefer dry vans on their book of business, flatbeds or liabilities. They're a business like anything else. So there's so many things, man, that are just holding us back. Insurance is another. You know this. You know, we could talk about that on the whole combo. Insurance is a joke. You know, how I have to pay a different rate to if I'm an Ohio carrier based on if I live in Florida, I can't even own a company because I can't get a good rate. You know what I mean, for insurance. You know what I mean? And the way they classify trucks and the way they charge you and the whole thing is just, it's a racket, man. There's so much crap that could be streamlined in 15 minutes, you know?
Right. And you know, of course, our current transportation
director is it?
Yes.
A moron.
Right.
Go into that.
Definitely underqualified for that position, for sure. But
they always are. The last one was too. The last one, the lean chop chick, she's probably never sat in a semi truck her whole life. You know, she's probably never even been in a pickup truck. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of these people are underqualified to be, in charge of transportation for the United States, and that's why there's frustrations that some states don't cooperate in the actual thing. That is, IFTA is the International Fuel Tax Agreement. Okay, that's the whole point for
Right.
Canada and Mexico, because it's like that was literally the whole point of IFTA, and now you have several states that don't participate. Insurance too. It seems like if you're a newer carrier, you only have two options, right? It's like, that's a
Right.
duopoly to my understanding, that you can choose one of two options. It's like that's not good.
Right.
But you did mention something about customers, right? That it is important for carriers to start getting in front of customers, right? Being a load board carrier is not a good idea. So what are you doing in that regard?
It's not a sustainable. Yeah, being a low board carrier is not a sustainable business model. We work every day. All of my dispatchers do to go direct and cut out. We still do low. We use load boards all day long. My dispatchers are calling. I call on loads. Everybody calls on loads, and it's really hard to not do it because even at my size, and you guys can see as big as we are, sometimes I can't have a truck. We have the brokers, but we can't have a truck in the area. And rolling the dice and picking some strong solo Sergey to grab the load and he not steal it and whatever is scary. So the brokers are. The whole concept is crazy anyway, that you're going to deal with some random person just because you vetted them on Carrier 411 or whatever, to trust them to take your $150,000 merchandise, across the country and strap it, secure it, and, in like even CDL school, this whole requirement to go to CDL school is a joke. Most of them, like the annual inspections. Dude, we have a place here. I had a trailer the other day I needed something fixed on, and I was like, I need an annual done on it. He just looks at it, writes me out an annual, and hands it to me. We get a lot of them done there. It's a big place that it loves, and I know the guy. And I'm like, dude, I don't need you to just give me a piece of effing paper. I need you to look at the trailer. Like, I'm trusting you to do your job, to actually look at it and put it in service or put it out of service and tell me, hey, this needs fixed. I'm like, did you see that bushing or whatever that I need replaced? No. I'm like, well, I have a bushing that I need replaced, and I need you to actually really do an annual on this. Check the lights, check everything out, because it's important. It's kind of important, you know? And that's just humans, man. Humans, in I don't know. I try to say the majority of people are good and there's bad apples, but a lot of humans suck, man. They don't want to do their job, and COVID made that worse. You can't get anything done anywhere in any industry. I can't get no callbacks from DriveWise, from Prepass, from any of these companies I work with. It's like, leave a message and we'll call you back.
So now, speaking of that maintenance situation or that annual inspection situation, have you thought about, at your size, starting a shop or getting into something like that so you could start? You thought about that?
So I think that if we talk about it right now, like, okay, Aaron, what do you need to do to be successful? You can't get bigger than the way I am right now without having a location. Okay. You need a physical location. It has to be, your business has to have a home. You can't run it out. I mean, I have different properties in different states and different, and we have storage places we pay and rent. But no, you have to have a business with your shingle hung outside, says your name, and you need a shop, your own shop with people that you can trust and validate and monitor. Okay. And then you have to have people clock in every day. Dispatchers need to clock in there. Your brokers need to clock in there. Your people, your operations managers, your paper pushers, your trucks need to be stored there. They need to be stored there when they're off. You know what I mean? And you need to have a great orientation program. The key to having good owner operators and a good safety score and vetting out the dummies is having them come to your location and do a real orientation.
Right.
That's 100% key. That we to get to where I'm at now, I haven't been able to do that. I've had to scale and push and push and push and push. But now we're to the level. It's like I gotta bring them in. I gotta make sure they don't have window tint on. 16 window tint violations in 1 year will tell you that. Right. Because and then they go put it back on. So I need to be like, hey, every 3 weeks to a month, you have to come back by the lot. Whether you're an owner operator or company truck, you have to come back by here. If you're gonna live on the road, cool. But you gotta come here. I gotta see your tires. I gotta go through and do so. I would say instead of an annual, I would do a company mandatory inspection on all trucks at least once monthly.
Monthly? Because Landstar, I think, does it every 6 months, right? So it's like...
I would do it monthly. I would make them get a load, and I would strategically place your location. I wouldn't put it in South Florida or South Texas or New York. I'd put it in the middle of the country, which would be smart because they're going to be passing by up, down, like a cross. And they could come by, and I would make it mandatory, and I'd put it in a software-based system that they'd have a reminder, and they can't get a load if they miss that day. At that point, they can't get another load. Like the next load you can get, it has to come straight to the office to get your inspection done. And I would do it monthly, and I think that's how you maintain a bigger fleet. And then also, I think that, as much as I love hotshot and I think it's the easiest barrier to entry and yada yada, I think you have to make the switch to go 100% away from hotshot. Because the DOT just has a target on your back. You're putting a huge target on your back, and they pull you in every day. Let's just screw with this guy. Let's screw with this guy. I've got semis that haven't gotten inspected in 2 years.
Right.
2 years they've never had an inspection.
Right.
And I have hotshot guys that have gotten three in 1 week. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, and that probably what contributes to that is because the barrier to entry, like you said, is a little bit lower. Like we both know is a little bit lower. It inevitably attracts some of the people that aren't so diligent with the work that they do. Right, and that's the unfortunate reality.
Right.
But I mean, just like
let's face it, me and you both got into it, and we didn't know shit, and we went through the school of hard knocks, and I made mistakes. I make mistakes every day. We try to do better, and you made mistakes, and it messes up the safety score and whatever. Right. But that's not really the right way at this level. It's not really. I don't know.
Right.
Is there a right and wrong way? I don't know. I mean, you want to go out and cowboy it up and start a business. It's like, get a van, slap a sticker on the side, start selling, and figure it out later.
Right.
That's the American way. But it's not really the right way. The smart way, I tell those people all the time, the smart way is go work for somebody who knows how to do it right. Learn all the right ways to do it before you go out and try to just blow your money. There's 2 ways to learn. You can learn on your dime or learn on somebody else's dime. And if you go work for like one of the Swifts or whatever and you learn all the right ways to do things, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to model my business after them because what they're doing is working. Mm-hmm. And then maybe, like you were talking about, put your advantage into it or put what you bring to the table, your thing, your spin on it, then you could probably, have something that's going to be successful. Right. But I think having a uniform type of equipment, which is semi, so you can carry the same tires. Like, you did it with your trailers, like same trailer, same this, same that. So it's like having that uniformity is scalable, and scaling a hotshot division and multiple different trucks and different owner operators and this and that. I don't know how Landstar does it. They have that huge owner operator base, and that's, well, what are they, like 10,000 trucks or something?
Because every single truck dispatches themselves.
Yeah, but through their internal system, that would never work dispatching off TruckStop or DAT. They have their own internal software, and you book a Landstar load with a Landstar agent. So that would probably work, you know? Mm-hmm. And then it's like you don't have to worry about getting blacklisted or, because like some of these big brokers, like say you imagine I've had people be like, oh, let everybody dispatch themselves. There's companies that have 300-400 trucks that do it. I'm like, yeah, and some guy's going to call Landstar and be like, go F yourself, your mom's a hoe or whatever. They're going to be like, yep, do not use because of why, and then that's it. And then the whole company can't use Landstar ever again. You know what I mean? So I don't know how they do that. I have no idea how that business model works, because I have, even as big as we are, sometimes a dispatcher or trucking or whatever owner op and the agent will get pissy and there'll be a fight and we'll get put on a do not use, and then I have to call the higher ups and I have to go through the process and be, hey, I'm the owner, look at our body of work that we've done, this was obviously just a dispute, and we're obviously a great carrier, I can't be on a do not use list with you because you're Landstar or TQR or whoever and a CH Robinson, and they're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, we'll look at what it was and go dial in, and okay, we'll fix it. But could you imagine if I couldn't remedy that?
That would be not fun. Not fun. It is interesting to see how these much larger carriers, how they try to differentiate themselves in the market, right? Because really that's what they're doing. Like Landstar is a little bit, they're operating a little bit different. They have their own load board and they have a bunch of agents that just go make the sales, so they have no dispatchers. So it's like that. It is interesting just seeing those differences. But Aaron, I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you taking the time so much, man. Where can people reach you?
You can find me on IG at The Real Trucking Guy, TikTok The Real Trucking Guy, YouTube The Trucking Guy, just about everywhere, man. If you're out there, come check us out, man.
Okay, perfect. And then, do you need drivers right now? Do you need owner operators? What are you looking for?
Always, man. We're looking for both. We're always looking, man. Owner operators, CDL, non-CDL hotshots, semis. We're looking for drivers, owner operators. It's got to be flatbed RGN stuff, though. We don't do any drive-in or reefer or anything like that. But yeah, man, I appreciate you having me. You have any questions at all?
Right. Well, folks, if you're looking to lease on or you have a truck and trailer, this might be the company for you. Give him a call, like he said, through his YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. Get a hold of Aaron. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, talking to a real carrier that's growing, leave us a review. We appreciate those, and we will see you next time. Bye.